right. So this presentation is mostly like a bunch of pictures. You know, and so the 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 point of this presentation is to get you guys excited about going somewhere. Like I figured like this would be like an interesting kind of like lunch and learn format where we talk about like a specific place and how to get there and like realistically like what you could do to go there. And what you could do. Because a lot of people think like, oh, it'd be nice like to go to Mexico, go to Mexico City or go to London, etc. But like if we talk a little bit more about the specifics of like what it takes to go there and what's there to do and see, like maybe like people are inspired to travel a little bit more. So this is Mexico City. This is the iconic symbol, in my opinion, of Mexico City, which is the Ángel de la Independencia. It's like the Angel of Independence. Um, and I went there at the end of October because I was invited to give a talk. So I gave a talk that was in on Halloween. It was time to be on Halloween. So I got up there to talk about React Native applications, professional React Native applications and personal React Native applications, while wearing a Mario custom. And the talk was, for like about 100, 120 people, I think. And it went pretty well because it was Mexican themed. A lot of people just, not Mexican themed, Halloween themed. Uh, a lot of people went dressed up, which was really, really cool. And I even got the audience to say hello to you guys. So here's the audience saying, uh, hi Lola in Spanish. So hola Lola is our Mexican slogan, right? The other mission that I was trying to fulfill is I have two cousins who are university age. They're pursuing careers, but I want to give them the programming bug. So these are my two cousins. They're twins. And I got them to come see the presentation, and I brought them two laptops so they could learn, programming. Like the idea was like I wanted to get them inspired to start becoming developers, and that was the purpose of my trip, to give a talk and to do this for my cousins. So I want to talk about the specifics of how to get to Mexico City. It's not that hard. It's actually very easy. Um, so there's a direct flight. Aeromexico 668 and Aeromexico 669 are the round trip flights. You get there and it takes about 6 hours to get there and 5 hours to come back. I guess it can be 5 hours because of the jet stream or something. You have like tailwinds. But it's actually pretty quick. If you want to go there for like 3 or 4 days, like a 6 hour flight is not that terrible. And the flights range between, like, you can probably get a flight like $250 to like $700. So if you found like a good like $250 deal, like, for the direct flight, just take it. I definitely recommend it. The times to go are maybe January. This is the price chart. January, April, and October. My recommendation is that you go to Mexico City at the end of October, because that's when Halloween, Day of the Dead, like happen. And Mexico has 2 days off. So any friends or acquaintances or people that you want to meet there will have the time off. I want to talk a little bit about Day of the Dead and what it is. So you've probably seen a lot of this stuff like skulls, etc., and heard about the Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead in Mexico City is not Halloween. They're two different things. Day of the Dead is a multi-day holiday. It's actually 2 days where families focus on having gatherings for like friends and family who have died. And it's a remembrance of and honor of the dead that have come, like before us, right? And the idea is to help them in their spiritual journey. And you'll see that like skulls are a big, symbol of Mexican culture. Um, so what I was told actually, because I thought like Halloween and Dia de los Muertos had like coalesced in Mexico City, in Mexico, but they told me when I was there like no, they're very separate things. So you'll see that like I'm the only person that's actually dressed up, right? Everybody else has face painting, and that's the separation between Halloween and Day of the Dead in Mexico City. Um, for the Day of the Dead, people in Mexico just paint their faces in in cool like skull masks, so they look like what's the name of that wrestler? The Undertaker. Yes. And there's a whole reasoning for this. Like it didn't used to be that way. This is a little bit like in the last century and a half or so. Um, so there's this etching, this famous etching called La Catrina, made by an artist in the early 1900s. And this is essentially it's kind of like a parody on people who are ashamed of their indigenous roots, um, and dressed imitating like French people or British people. And there's like a subtle commentary in this, but this image kind of became very iconic in Mexico. And actually, Diego Rivera made a famous mural where they showed La Catrina, and actually you can see here this is Frida Kahlo, right? And part of this painting kind of catapulted the symbol of of death in Mexican culture. And the whole idea is that not only we are commemorating the death, but we're also like laughing at death, death. And part of the point is too is that like everybody, no matter how rich or poor you are, like eventually you die. So it's kind of like the great equalizer.
Is there any significance to? Is that a snake around her neck?
I have no idea. I think so. It might be a decorative snake. So for Day of the Dead, we put out what are called ofrendas, which is breads, fruits, and candies. We offer up to the dead, and that is to help them with their spiritual journey, supposedly, or maybe they get hungry. Um, so that's Halloween. There's another aspect of Halloween that's becoming popular. Not Halloween, Dia de los Muertos. Sorry, I grew up mostly here in the U.S. So like I'm also still getting caught up on the difference. There's also something else called alebrijes. So these are Mexican fantastical animals. And the backstory is that there was an artist who had a fever dream one night, and in the fever dream, he imagined these creatures just telling him, just saying the word alebrije, alebrije. So he woke up and just started, drawing these fantastical animals, and he made a career out of it. And when I went there, there was like the most important avenue in Mexico City, which I will talk about in a second, was just filled with sculptures like this. There were like probably like 1,000 sculptures, and they're super dope. So just imagine like an entire like avenue of these. You can see this one behind it. And this is just like an exhibition that they had for Dia de los Muertos, or like a week before that. So I want to talk about specifically where to go in Mexico City, and I'm going to talk about 3 places. And I'm going to show you the layout of the city a little bit. There is a giant avenue right here called what is it called? Reforma, I think, and it's giant. It's if you want to know a little bit about Mexico's history, like we were invaded by the French at one point, and the French were in charge for about like 10 years. And during that time, they transformed the city to like a European layout. And this is Um, that avenue, it's huge. So this is where they had the sculptures. So this is kind of very similar to Champs-Élysées in Paris. It was modeled actually after that. So all along, you'll see a bunch of monuments, and this ends in a big park, Chapultepec, which is like Mexico Central Park, which is where the French ruler used to live. So he made this avenue um, in order to get from the center to his castle. Um, but anyway, like if you wanna stay in the tourist zone, stay along this avenue. Mexico is obviously very big, but this is a very nice, easy to understand area of Mexico City to stay at. And right next to it is this, these two neighborhoods that I'm talking about, Roma y La Condesa. This is the hipster area of Mexico City. This is where the hipsters live. La Condesa and Roma, like this whole area. And this is that avenue. This is that Chapultepec park that I was telling you about. So you can just walk here and just, experience like a ton of like really awesome restaurants and bars. And I will talk in a second about food. Like most of my slides are actually about food. Um, it's very hipster. This is a hipster bar. This is like a nice cafe that you can go to. And the architecture is just very old, like very old style Mexico City. And there's one part that's unfortunate about that, which is that area was actually the hardest hit in Mexico City by the earthquake.
They said
Huh?
the hipster area was?
Yeah. Because they have like kind of like the old stone buildings. When I went there, I actually didn't see any fallen buildings. I thought I would see more. I actually just saw one. I saw two actually. I saw this one, this building that's condemned because it has a big crack on its walls, and then I saw this one. The damage was pretty bad, but given the size of Mexico City and how bad the earthquake was, it wasn't that bad when you look at it in scale. So that's the hipster area, and I will talk about some of the food that you can find there. The next point of interest that I would recommend is Coyoacan. Coyoacan is the old school, like the old Mexico City. Before like Mexico City just engulfed the entire area. There used to be Mexico City and Coyoacan. Coyoacan used to be like the nice hipster neighborhood, way back in the 1900s, where like all the artists used to live. And in Coyoacan, you can go see La Casa de Frida, like Frida Kahlo's house, which is one of the major attractions in Mexico City. Frida Kahlo was this very important painter who was married to Diego Rivera, another very important, huge painter. And they had kind of like this very troubled love life, but they lived together in this house, La Casa Azul, and it's just painted in very bright colors. And you can see her bed, a lot of her artwork inside the halls, and a lot of like very traditional Mexican artifacts, like from the 1900s, of how people used to live. In Coyoacan, that's where you should go buy your souvenirs, because there's the Mercado de Coyoacan, the market. It's one of the, I think, coolest markets that I've ever been to. It's huge. You can buy lots of traditional food. You can buy like a lot of trinkets, and these are skulls. So these are candies that are made for Dia de los Muertos. And as a matter of fact, I told you guys that I was bringing a treat. This is the treat that I brought you guys, and we can pass it around. So this is a chocolate skull, and these are made for Dia de los Muertos. So I don't know if you guys want to pass it around, and then at the end we can all have a piece.
Solid?
Huh?
Solid?
Solid?
Solid chocolate? No.
Yeah, it's a little bit hot. Yeah. Yeah, so I think that one I bought in Mercado de Coyoacan. Like I actually had to look very hard because I started buying them like towards the end of the holiday, and they were all sold out. Yeah. But I wanted to bring one to Lola so you could see. The other one is one of my favorite places in Mexico City, and it's not in Mexico City. It's a little bit further out. It's Xochimilco. So this is like the hipster area. This is the park. Xochimilco is all the way over here. Right? You probably see this a lot of in like Mexican imagery, like whenever you talk about tourism, etc. It's kind of like a shallow lake where you can get in a boat and go on a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour tour and just eat and have fun, drink, listen to music. It's awesome. So this is a picture of me with the organizers of the talk. And one of my cousins. And as you can see up here, the symbol of La Catrina, which is really, really important. And all the boats are named. They have names. They're named after women usually. So this one's like Lupita, which is a name for a Mexican name. And one of the best things that I love about this place is that you get on the boat. It's called a trajinera, and then there's like other smaller boats that come to yours and sit like dock right next to you and start serving you food. So this one, yeah, it is so cool. The other coolest part is that you can actually get mariachis.
Was that on your boat or was that
Yeah,
another boat?
that's so there's this boat that's tied up to us, and then the mariachis just come up on our boat. And this is my favorite Mexican song. So it was like the first thing I ordered. So we're just like drinking and eating and listening to awesome music.
So there's little folk bars that go up next to it too?
Yeah, like there's people selling like beers, food, music. It's awesome. Okay, this slide's out of order, but this is some of the other stuff that you can see in Mercado de Coyoacan. Should have cleaned up this presentation. Anyway, next up, things to eat. This is the best part. So this is my favorite thing to eat in Mexican food, chilaquiles. Yeah. So I like it so much that I actually have a Twitter account about this stuff. Like it's called We Rate Chilaquiles. I'll send it out. But this is like a traditional Mexican dish. It's very strong. It's cooked tortilla, like solid tortilla, cooked in like tomato sauce with cream, etc. And you can put chicken. This one was actually at the Four Seasons. This was the like shrimp chilaquiles, which I've never had.
How did it rate?
It was so good.
It looks
It was like
really good.
14 out of 10.
Can you get that in Boston?
Yes. And if you guys want, I can organize a field trip to go have some chilaquiles. We have to go to East Boston though. Jen and I often drive out there, for lunch. We've done it a couple of times. I'm just gonna show you pictures of food. These are churros with chocolate. And I've never had I've kind of had like a lot of like packaged chocolate, but I went to this place in La Condesa, like that hipster neighborhood, and they have like all sorts of chocolate. They had like Spanish chocolate, Mexican chocolate. I didn't know you could have 10 different types of sweetness and density of the chocolate. This is more chilaquiles. So good, different styles. My cousins, or actually the organizers, took me to a place where you can have a chilaquiles sandwich, which is so weird to me. It's a weird concept for me. But it had a huge line. And one of the things that impressed me about this is that Mexico has a lot of food stands in the corner. You see this person? This is a delivery person for local service. Right next to him, like this guy getting some food, that guy's Uber Eats. So, yeah. So in Mexico City, you can order from Uber Eats from a corner, like from a corner pop-up. It's awesome. It is so good. The food, just like you can find at the corners, is amazing. And what really impressed me was the hustle of the lady that runs this. That line is super huge. For a stand, it is super huge. And she's just making tortas. Tortas are Mexican sandwiches. They're so good. All right, so we have about 6 minutes left, so I'm gonna rush through the rest of these. This is pan de muerto. This is bread that's made only during Dia de los Muertos, like in the 2 weeks before. It's so good. I've had it. I grew up with it when I was little. The twist that I learned this trip is that you can get them filled with cream, and that's amazing. It's so good. These are the chocolate skulls that I'm passing around. And I'm going to talk now about the like higher end Mexican cuisine, which I like. These are escamoles. These are like ant eggs. They taste like corn. It's kind of interesting. Huh? I have no idea. This is guacamole with what is it called? How do you say it? With crickets. Yeah, we have a special kind of cricket in Mexico City, and it was crunchy. And it's actually pretty good.
So that is cricket?
Huh? Yeah. You know, like dried peanuts. You know, like the peanut shells. Not the inner peanut shells, not the actual peanut shells, but like yeah, when you have like roasted peanuts, it tasted like that. It's not bad. It's an easy thing for you to like be like, oh, I ate a bug.
And these are like delicacies.
Yeah. The thing is that this is what like people from the like from towns etc. like eat, and sometimes they put it on a plate in fancy restaurants. I've never had a tortilla like this. These are ceremonial tortillas from like an area of Mexico. I don't remember, but I didn't know that you could do this to a tortilla. It's awesome. This was one of my favorite dishes. Sopa de flor de calabaza, like pumpkin flower soup. It's so good. The best dish I've ever had. The best dessert I've ever had. This is called espuma de guanábana. This is like a foam of like a local fruit. It's so good. Sorry, this is just gonna be like, oh my god, that's so good. Over and over. These are the chilaquiles. So this stuff was all at a restaurant called Azul, which is in La Condesa. And the prices for like top-notch Mexican restaurants are not that bad. This was like a $50 meal for like lots and lots of food, like very delicious. So there's a show on Netflix called Chef's Table. Has anyone seen it? Okay. There is a Mexican chef that's featured on that show, Enrique Olivera, and not this time, but the time before, I went to his restaurant, and this is absolutely the best looking, the best tasting taco I've ever had. This is a taco.
Eat it like a taco?
Yeah. So good.
What are the green spheres?
So this is like a foam, like a avocado foam, avocado and chili foam with like roasted beef, and it has like pumpkin flowers. It's so good. And this is a dish that's featured on that show, which is the mole madre, which is like mole, like a sauce that he's been cooking for like 2 years. Meaning like the same batch, he just makes more, and he makes different kinds of sauces. He keeps adding it to the original batch, kind of like a mother sauce, and it's really really good, really really flavorful. This was avocado ice cream.
Tom Brady would be.
He likes avocado ice cream.
Maybe he had some. He was just
Yeah, he was just there, like the Patriots played there a couple of weeks ago. All right, so Elliot wanted me to talk about safety in Mexico City. I'm not advocating that you go to Mexico. I'm advocating that you go to Mexico City, right? Northern Mexico is not great. Don't go there. It's very dangerous. But it's not all of Mexico that's has drug violence. It's mostly towards the north, like towards the border when the areas where people want to like sneak drugs in, etc. That's where a lot of the crime exists. In terms of safety for Mexico City, there's only one thing you need to know. This is the advisory from the State Department. There's no advisory in effect. It's pretty safe. I actually want to pull up some more stats. Going to Mexico City is roughly the same safety equivalent as going to Houston. And other cities like Atlanta or Chicago are actually more dangerous to go to than Mexico City. But I didn't have time to pull up those stats. But the main thing that you need to know is that Mexico City is actually pretty safe. There are so many cops. So many cops. I've never seen so many cops in my life just protecting the tourist areas, etc. So the TLDR, in case you fell asleep, Mexico City is awesome. You should totally go there. There's a 6-hour flight. You can get it as cheap as $250. There's 3 neighborhoods that I recommend. There's obviously a lot more to see. I recommend that you go to October and check out Dia de los Muertos. And for restaurants, you should go to Azul and Pujol. Yes.
What information from Seeker says it was a 737? Is that what you're on?
787.
It's 78.
No, actually, no. It's actually 737. Yeah, it's not a 787. No.
They have 787.
Yeah, but it's not this flight.
How big is Mexico City? Like, if you were to equate it to a U.S. city, like landscape-wise, not
it's-
population.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have no concept of it. It's one of the biggest cities in the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something like 40% of the population at one point of Mexico. Boundaries of Mexico City.
The Mexico City metropolitan area is huge. Sorry, we only have like 2 more minutes. There's actually another meeting that's happening here. Second? All right, if you guys have any questions, ask me in Slack.
What's TLDR?
Too long, didn't read.